Hello everyone and welcome to the third day in our live readings of ancient Greek tragedy. If you joined us yesterday, we were reading Euripides' Electra, and on Monday we did Sophocles' Antigone, and today it is the turn of Euripides' Bacchae. Now this is considered one of the greatest of the Greek tragedies, and actually written at the very end of the 5th century BCE. So it was one of Euripides' last plays. He was actually in residence up in Macedon in the court of the Macedonian king by the time he was writing this, and it wasn't performed until after his death back in Athens in around 405 BCE. So it was probably actually directed and produced by one of his family members rather than by himself. And the other reason that this play is extraordinary is because the gods are not just people who are sort of obviously listened to in one form or another, or perhaps turn up at the end of the play to sort out the mess that humans have made. The gods, and particularly one god, Dionysus, in this play, is a major protagonist character, and he's a pretty nasty one as well, because he is very upset. The play starts with the idea that Dionysus has been denied his honour and worship in the city of Thebes. Thebes, once again, that problem town where everything goes wrong. He has not been recognised as the son of Zeus. He's not been given his position and honour as a god. And indeed, Pentheus, who is this sort of young upstart member of the royal family of Cadmus, has declared that anyone found guilty of worshipping Dionysus will be punished. So he's outlawed worship of Dionysus. So Dionysus decides to take matters into his own hands and demonstrate once and for all his divine power by, frankly, ripping apart the ruling family of Thebes, the family of Cadmus. So where we are in the messenger speech that I'm about to read is Dionysus has disguised himself as a stranger and has convinced Pentheus to go and visit in disguise secretly a group of Dionysiac worshippers, women, the Maenads, who are up in the forests and in the hills outside of Thebes. And this includes Pentheus's mother, Agae. Now, Dionysus knows full well what he intends to do, but he's tricked Pentheus into coming with him. And we now hear from the messenger who returns to tell of what happened up in the mountains. When we left the dwellings of the Theban land and crossed the streams of Asopus, we began to ascend the heights of Kithaeron, Pentheus and I, for I was following my master, and the stranger who was our guide to the site. First, we sat in a grassy vale, keeping our feet and voices quiet so that we might see them without being seen. There was a little valley surrounded by precipices, irrigated with streams, shaded by pine trees, where the Maenads were sitting, their hands busy with delightful labours. Some of them were crowning again the worn thyrsos, making it leafy with ivy, while some, like colts freed from the painted yoke, were singing a Bacchic melody to one another. And the unhappy Pentheus said, not seeing the crowd of women, "Stranger, from where we are standing, I cannot see these false Maenads. But on the hill, ascending a lofty pine, I might view properly the shameful acts of the Maenads." And then I saw the stranger perform a marvellous deed. For seizing hold of the lofty topmost branch of the pine tree, he pulled it down to the dark earth. It was bent just as a bow or a curved wheel, when it is marked out by a compass, describes a circular course. In this way, the stranger drew the mountain bough with his hands and bent it to the earth, doing no mortal deed. He sat Pentheus down on the pine branch and let it go upright with his hands, steadily, taking care not to shake Pentheus off. The pine stood firmly upright into the sky, with my master seated on its back. He was seen by the Maenads more than he saw them, for sitting on high, he was all but apparent, and the stranger was no longer anywhere to be seen, when a voice, Dionysus, as I guess, cried out from the air, "Young women, I bring the one who has made you and me and my rights a laughingstock. Now punish him." And as he said this, a light of holy fire was placed between heaven and earth. The air became quiet, and the woody glen kept its leaves silent, nor would you have heard the sound of animals. But they, not having heard the sound clearly, stood upright and looked all around. He repeated his order, and when the daughters of Cadmus recognized the clear command of Bacchus, they rushed forth, swift as a dove, running with eager speed of feet, his mother, Agave, and her sisters, and all the Bacchae. They leapt through the torrent-streaming valley and mountain cliffs, frantic with the inspiration of the god. And when they saw my master sitting in the pine, first they climbed a rock towering opposite the tree and began to hurl at him boulders violently thrown. Some aimed with pine branches, and other women hurled their thrissoi through the air at Pentheus, a sad target indeed. But they did not reach him. For the wretched man, caught with no way out, sat at a height too great for their eagerness. Finally, like lightning, they smashed oak branches and began to tear up the roots of the tree with ironless levers. And when they did not succeed in their toils, Agave said, "Come, standing round in a circle, each seize a branch, Maenad, so that we may catch the beast who has climbed aloft, and so that he does not make public the secret dances of the god." They applied countless hands to the pine and dragged it from the earth. Pentheus fell crashing to the ground from his lofty seat, wailing greatly, for he knew he was in terrible trouble. His mother, the priestess, began the slaughter and fell upon him. He threw the headband from his head so that the wretched Agave might recognize him and not kill him. Touching her cheek, he said, "It is I, mother, your son, Pentheus, whom you bore in the house of Ecthion. Pity me, mother. Do not kill me, your child, for my sins." But she, foaming at the mouth and twisting her eyes all about, not thinking as she ought, was possessed by Bacchus, and he did not persuade her. Seizing his left arm at the elbow and propping her foot against the unfortunate man's side, she tore out his shoulder. Not by her own strength, but the god gave facility to her hands. Ino began to work on the other side, tearing his flesh, while Autonoe and the whole crowd of the Bacchae pressed on. All were making noise together, he groaning as much as he had life left in him, while they shouted in victory. One of them bore his arm, another a foot, boot and all. His ribs were stripped bare from their tearings. The whole band, hands bloodied, were playing a game of catch with Pentheus's flesh. His body now lies in different places, part under the rugged rocks, part in the deep foliage of the woods not easy to be sought. His miserable head, which his mother happened to take in her hands, she fixed on the end of her thrissos and carries through the midst of Gythyron like that of a savage lion, leaving her sisters among the Maenads dancing. She is coming inside these walls, preening herself on the ill-fated prey, calling Bacchus, her fellow hunter, her accomplice in the chase, the glorious victor, in whose service she wins a triumph of tears. And as for me, I will depart out of the way of this calamity before Agave reaches the house. Soundness of mind and reverence for the affairs of the gods is best, and this, I think, is the wisest possession for these mortals who adopt it. Agave will enter the house of Cadmus, the ruling family of Thebes, with her son Pentheus' head on a stake. She'll call for her father, Pentheus' grandfather, Cadmus, to come and see it. He desperately tries to persuade her to see what it really is. She even calls for Pentheus to come and see her prize. And it's only then that her madness starts to wane and she realizes whose head she has in her hands in front of her and what she has done. The play ends with the entire family completely torn apart, either leaving for exile or, in Cadmus's case, to be turned by the gods into a serpent. It is a play of the sheer might and power and unpleasantness of a god who has been wronged, and underlines that important element of ancient Greek religious worship and ideas, that the gods could be actively for you and against you, and if they were against you, you had no hope. So, thank you so much for joining in today's reading. It's brilliant to see you. Tomorrow we will be returning at the same time, 1 p.m, and we'll be doing Aeschylus's Agamemnon. And again, it's this time it's when Agamemnon himself returns home after 10 long years at Troy. And in the meantime, if you've been enjoying these live readings, do have a look on the YouTube channel. You can catch up with the ones from the other days, as well as with all our live Q&As that we do via Facebook. The next one will be on the 18th of June. And can I also flag to you what's been announced today on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Prof Michael Scott, that I'll be doing a free online lecture, the British School of Athens Summer Lecture, coming up on the 24th of June at 6 p.m. UK time, and you can register for that lecture. It's free to attend, but you have to register to get the Zoom link to be able to log in to attend the lecture. So please do have a look on the Facebook page or on my Twitter feed or on Instagram for the link to register for a place. The lecture will be The View from the Aegean, Greek Perspectives on a Global Ancient World. So a very different topic indeed, thinking about the place and perception and experience of the Greeks as they sat within a Mediterranean world that connected into the Silk Roads leading all the way to China. So very much hope you can join me for that. Hope you can join me tomorrow for our last of the live readings. And of course, following on from these live readings, there'll be another series of readings from different excerpts of plays that will also be available on the YouTube channel next week. All right, take care. Have a lovely rest of the day. Bye-bye.